Would you like to learn to protect your rights? Would you like to sue government officials for violating you and your property and your rights? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We have a very exciting event coming up and a very great speaker I'm grateful to have on the show today. Hey everyone, welcome to the Freedom Lovers Show. I'm your host, David James Rodriguez, and we are building the voluntary world one relationship at a time. And I'm really honored to have our speaker who is going to be speaking at an event November 7th here in the Santa Cruz area, Mr. Tony Pellegrino, who is the co-founder of the American Common Law Academy. And so I want you all to meet him and learn about his background and his successes in the law and how he's been a champion for freedom, helping ordinary people like you and I to be empowered in our rights and standing up for our human dignity. I think that's what we're all interested in. So before we get into this short conversation, Tony, welcome to the show, and thanks for being a courageous champion out there.
Right on, David. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to come up there to Santa Cruz. And yeah, let's make a difference in our communities, right?
Absolutely, man. This is what it is. One relationship at a time, you know, one lawsuit, one problem, one absolute discussion and presentation at a time. People really sometimes misunderstand the power of one. And so we're going to have this first initial law class, which is learn how to sue government officials for violating your rights, because we see even before the COVID stuff, before government, especially in California, has been overreaching and just really harming peaceful people. And it's no longer acceptable. And there's a great group of community members who are growing and building, not just in California, but you're in Boise, Idaho, you know, where your academy is. And so I want to get into kind of who you are for the people and a little bit about your background. So if you want to just share maybe a little bit why you got into teaching law and what is your interest there, and we'll start there and then progress to some of the things we'll learn in the class on November 7th.
Right on. Thanks, David. Yeah, I think it was around 2012 I started getting interested, and then 2013 I started diving in. And so yeah, in 7 short years, I mean, I've seen some amazing victories, and I am doing this full time. I was in the trades for a while, so I was not really interested in law at all. And, you know, it turns out when you get in a railroad situation where you're like, well, this isn't right, and you stand up for yourself and you win, and all of a sudden, so I won like a traffic ticket, and I won a couple other bogus stuff like building inspectors bugging you know, about you have a car parked in your front lawn and just dumb stuff like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, these people work for us. And so, so yeah, I started going to some conferences, started getting self-educated, and I had a knack to win. And so I'm like, so I eventually, you know, we co-founded the academy up in Idaho in 2016 with Lee Rice. And we were doing that up there, but I'm down here in California now. So we're thinking about taking this mobile, but yeah, the American Common Law Academy is built on the 3 pillars of educate, equip, and empower. And so knowledge is power. And so when you understand the power that you have as one of we the people, if you understand your status, then you start introducing people to their bosses, which is you. You are the government employee's boss. Those people who collect a stipend from the government, they're living off of your dollar and your tax dollar. Every time you go to the store and purchase something, you know, the state charges taxes, and those funds pay and enrich and employ and benefit those public servants. So they're supposed to be working for us, and it's not like we're not their servants, they're our servants. So I teach people status. And once you understand status, you start talking to them like they're your employees instead of asking permission.
That's right. Yeah, and that's what part of the show is about, is understand our personal sovereignty. Our rights come from God or nature or creator, whatever you guys believe out there. But you're an important person out there, audience member, because your mom and dad made you in love, and you're here in birth and this amazing experience of human life. And it's significant to breathe, as you know, because this is a short ride. And so we want to express our humanity and creative expression and love and peace and whatever you want to, you know, manifest in your life. And these criminal organizations wrapped up to violate us, and we thought they were helping us, and now we see that they're actually causing harm. And so you mentioned some victories, and I'm so curious because we are tired of having to get permission to go outside without a mask, travel, right, you know, all these different violations of our natural rights from God. It's like, what do you do? I mean, outside of violence, because we don't want to be violent. This is like the last resort, you know, we want to do it in a peaceful way. And a lot of times these government officials don't even know what they're doing. You know, we have a conversation with multiple cops, and I ask them specifically, do you know the difference between a driver and a traveler? And they don't. And they think, you know, I'm out in left field, but it's like, you're a law enforcer and you don't know the law. So I feel bad for these guys, but ultimately I'm trying to help my community and each of our own people who we love and try to help them become empowered. So we want to win, man. And so we don't know how long it's going to take. You want to share how long it might take, and maybe, you know, some of the kind of expectations or some areas that, you know, you've been successful in helping people learn, and some of the victories. You can talk about some of your successes too.
Yeah, you know, I hate to say it this way, but it's almost like you just can't try to speak to someone like as a friend. If they're wearing a uniform and they're acting under color of law, they are not your friend. You know, under normal circumstances, what I like to tell people, hey, I'd like to have a cup of coffee with you and talk to you, but how long have you been trespassing on my property, sir? While I'm videotaping. Say you get a knock on the door, you know, and this is how you start exercising your freedom. You want to protect your dominion, your property, your sanctuary. You know, you're the king of your castle. You put up no trespassing signs on your private property, starting with that, okay? Because you don't want public servants just walking on your property. You know, that there's a mailbox out there. And so if you're out in the public, you record everything. And when you engage public officials, I mean, be courteous. You know, we want to treat everybody with honor. They're doing their job. Greet them with a smile. And you start asking them questions, you know. You don't answer questions. You have a right to remain silent. People need to understand that you only need to know the 10 Bill of Rights. And so this isn't intimidating. I'm not going to give you the 20,000 revised statutes of California. You know, I'm going to be teaching 10 Bill of Rights. And so a high school senior can understand the principles that I'm going to bring forth at the seminars, how to view everything through the lens of the Bill of Rights, understanding who you are as one of we the people. And once you understand your status, standing, and jurisdiction, and you know, that word seems to intimidate people, jurisdiction, which jurisdiction means basically words of law. And how does the law apply to me as one of we the people? And so if you understand the 10 Bill of Rights and you understand how that coincides with your everyday life, then you can say, well, you know what? This is a right. This isn't a privilege. And this person is overstepping their bounds. And so you ask them questions. And it's funny when you start saying, can you excuse me, tell me what your name is and your official job title, ma'am or sir. So right away, they know that they're going to be accountable, because you're going to pull out a pen and you're going to say, can you spell your last name for me? Say, if they don't have a name badge on. And so you'd be surprised how people with attitude, all of a sudden, they get a little bit more chilled when you're, you know, holding their flesh, you know, accountable. And so, because they usually have the whole agency backing them up, whatever agency, if it's an IRS, if it's the, you know, forestry department, if it's a, you know, a law enforcement, California Highway Patrol. And so when they got their agencies backed up, it seems like they're emboldened to be a little bit rude. I hate to say that, but power hungry, lazy people were mostly
Uh-oh, you're getting a little groggy there. Can you hear me? Can I slow down there? You all right?
Unfortunately, not every way that, especially during COVID. And so it's probably how I'm holding this phone. Maybe if I shift it, I'm kind of mobile. Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you there, yeah.
Can you hear me better? All right, so it all starts like with a lawful notification letter. You know, I'll be given templates of this lawful notification letter, so it's going to be like paint by the numbers. You know, what's going to happen is, you know, when we're kids, we paint. Number 1 is yellow, number 2 is blue, number 3 is green, and when we're kids, we learn how to paint this picture. You know, paint by the numbers. So I have these templates that I'm going to be sharing at the conference of these lawful notification letters. Okay, and it's basically all the laws are there. And all the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Code and basically what rights violations apply to your situation. And that's all you got to do is kind of fill in your name and the agency you're dealing with. And so, you know, you get a lot of victories with these lawful notification letters, because this is where it starts, David. Before you sue someone, you got to put them on notice. Okay. And so that's the first step. You can't really sue anybody unless you put it on notice. And so at the end of these lawful notification letters, I like to cap it off and end it with, to avoid litigation and adjudication in this matter, I'm open for negotiations. Like basically cease and desist, stop what you're doing, okay? One of the most recent victories that I had just through a lawful notification letter was my brother-in-law. He went to purchase a gun. in Pennsylvania, and he was on a list for like something 35 years ago. And so they says you're denied. You can't purchase a firearm. And so we had to go to the Pennsylvania State Police for some reason. And, this letter was signed by someone. So you have to pin somebody down. Who you dealing with? Like with the IRS. You have to call them and say, is somebody assigned to my case? Okay. Fortunately, this letter from the Highway Patrol or from Pennsylvania State Police basically said you're not in compliance. You can't get a firearm. So we wrote a letter to that individual telling them that they're bound by their oath of office. They have a sworn and signed oath of office to uphold the rights. And this is a nonviolent offense that you're denying me my rights, my Second Amendment rights to bear arms. So basically, we want you to reconsider because this is going to go to federal court and we're going to hold you accountable because you're the guy that's denying me. So you pin down the person of who's infringing it. So when you try to go after an agency like CPS or Highway Patrol or the IRS, those are fights you don't want to tie yourself up in.
Got it. Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, that's great. You have victories because we don't know what to do. It's like, all right, so this lawful notice, and then you mentioned earlier is that if they don't respond, then you can put their life into a really tough spot. And it's like, we don't want to harm your humanity, but you're acting, as you said, under color of law, and you're violating me. So what am I supposed to do? Sit here like a slave? Sit here like a victim? No, as sovereign humans, as kings and queens on the earth, people who have rights from our humanity or nature, we got to exercise those rights or we're going to lose them. And that's what you're talking about right now. So that's great. So you helped your brother-in-law with the weapons, and you even had, I think you said financial victories as well. And so whether it's, was it a city or a state officials? You want to talk a little bit, maybe there?
Yeah, so like my mother-in-law got her car impounded. She was in an accident and she broke her neck and her car was down in a ditch. And so we wrote a lawful notification letter of the impoundment. Just because they have a contract with Highway Patrol, they were going to charge her like $5,000 for the tow, and an impoundment. We got that reduced to $2,000. The federal lawsuit that I'm assisting one of my clients on right now, he got falsely arrested just for asking the officer a couple questions, and they towed his truck away, and that officer's being sued in federal court right now. And so, but during the case, the tow truck company paid $5,000 to get out of the case because they were being sued too. Because anybody working in concert with public officials can also be sued in federal court. This same individual on a different case, Workman's California State Compensation. Was overcharging him like $80,000 he had to pay for them. And so extra. And so we got that was a nice victory. I've had a lawyer screw up somebody's case. We sent him a lawful notification letter saying, dude, you dropped the ball. You have a fiduciary duty as your client to represent me in the best possible way. And you failed in that. I want my $5,000 back. And he gave him this $5,000 back. I mean, when you're getting money back from the attorneys, this stuff works, right? Another friend of mine, he got $5,000 from a police officer yet. Yeah, so we've got some of these in the federal court. These lawsuits are more than $5,000, David. Some of them are over $1 million because each time the Bill of Rights is violated, it's $250,000. So when you're talking about these civil rights lawsuits, when you get into the federal courts, it's it's $250,000. It's 18 U.S.C. Section 3571 is the pay scale. And so when your rights are violated, it's kind of like Lay's potato chips. You just can't have one violation. Chances are, if a cop tells you to shut up and you're under arrest, he denies your free speech, denies your freedom of expression. Are you still there?
Yep.
I lost you for a sec. Yeah, so it's your Fourth and Fifth and Ninth Amendment. Usually it's $1 million lawsuit. With all this COVID stuff going on, I mean, I was shocked when all these pastors shut down their churches. I mean, the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, nor prohibit the free exercise thereof. But yeah, just looking at some of the recent victories. We got, like I said, as a friend of mine, $5,000 from his attorney, $28,000. Somebody got rushed to the hospital in the ambulance service. They took off all the jewelry from this individual, and they knew they took it off. And so this 28,000 diamond necklace kind of disappeared. And so we sent a lawful notification letter, which they ignored the first time, and we sent them again. And so they ended up $28,000 paying for that necklace. Okay. The emergency services. I mean, it wasn't, the people got to be accountable, and it's nice to get help. But when you have one of the employees stealing, you know what I mean, your jewelry when you're, unconscious. And so, yeah. So anyways, some of my colleagues have won up to $180,000 in these federal lawsuits. I got 2 of them currently right now. We've had some of the officers pay to get out. The tow truck companies pay. But anyways, yeah, you're talking $1 million lawsuit. So all roads lead to federal court. The problem with these state courts is that you're not getting substantial justice in these state courts. And I'm sure you're familiar with that. They're not recognizing the Constitution. And so all roads lead to federal court. So I'll teach people, how to apply there. I've helped a couple people also in their jury trials, criminal. I was just assisting them, and foreclosures. We've had victories in that. I've had people stay in their houses like 2.5 years before they were foreclosed on, because you have rights. People don't understand that you miss 4 payments on your house. Well, I guess I default. I leave. No, you put a roof on that house. You painted it. You cut the grass. You put shrubberies and flowers. You put a new roof on it. You heated that thing so mold didn't grow in it. You cut the grass every week. You trim the trees. And so just because you miss four payments on that, what about the new carpet you put in, and the addition? And you don't walk away from your house. This non-judicial foreclosure that they like to do in California is totally unconstitutional, and we don't have to consent to these things. And so we've, like I said, I've helped people stay in their house for a couple of years without even making a payment while they're in foreclosure. The problem with these state court judges is that their retirement is tied up in mortgage securities. Okay. And so, they're not ruling for the individuals, they're kind of ruling for the banks, but it's good to exercise your rights. There's alternative law that we can use, processes called coordination, and also E-clause, which is loss prevention for the U.S. government. I'll be sharing a little bit about that too. But just basically, I'm going to focus on the 10 Bill of Rights for this conference, and just equip people how to send a letter. Okay, and then we could go into writing a federal lawsuit on a 4-day seminar in the future. But if you put in 6 months and a year of study, this stuff will carry you the rest of your life, because I think people are tired of getting screwed over.
Oh man, we're so fed up. And the question is, what is the recourse that we have? And so I think these letters and exercising our rights. I mean, this is the thing which schools don't teach the kids, because once you know your rights, you become someone who's powerful and someone who is not going to lay down and be an easy target. And that's all we want. We just want to be able to grow our muscles in the courtroom, grow our muscles dealing with these different entities. And whether it's a public official, sounds like even private organizations can be accountable for their actions, and you can win thousands of dollars there for their violation of your rights. And you mentioned 6 to 12 months or 6 months to a year, and I'm grateful for that, because I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me 5 years or 10 years. But you're saying on a shorter scale, people can learn some of the basics and start to grow and become more powerful. Now, would you say that anybody can learn to file a lawsuit? Anybody can become a champion, a winner in these courtrooms?
Yes, you can become a master pro se litigant if you apply yourself. Like I said, I went and I'm self-taught. I didn't go to law school. This lawful notification letter, like with that impoundment with the car that want to charge my mother-in-law, $5,000. I think I was like 6 months into the process when I was learning this stuff. And, it was my first lawful notification letter, and I sent it to them. And when I walked in, did you get my notarized letter? You know what I mean? It was notarized and it's sent to you certified mail. You keep people accountable. They know you're serious. This is a notarized letter. I had to sign for it. This is a legal document. This is business. These people mean business, like I said. So a lot of these police harassments, even IRS, bill collectors, I mean, these were early on when I just had 6 months underneath my belt. And I was seeing responses where I would just knock bill collectors out of the park. I mean, because you can charge them triple damages when they were not acting in good faith. And these bill collectors are third-party debt collectors. No, you didn't have a contract with them if you defaulted on your Sears credit card, And so all this foreclosure, impoundment, repossession of your car, your local HOA telling you can't have a fountain in your front yard. I mean, they just do not want to let us go. Public officials, they're not content with just coming when we call them and when we ask them for their help. They want to rule our lives, and we got to introduce them to their bosses, which is us. And so, like I said, there are so many different methods you can use, and I don't like using attorneys because you know what? They earn their living, David, in the courtroom. And a lot of times they won't shake things up on your behalf. I want to fight with everything within me. I don't want to leave anything on the table because I don't want to go to court. And most of these lawful notification letters will resolve your issue before you get to court. But, you know, attorneys, I say it like this. You don't eat and crap in the kitchen, right? You know, you have a bathroom when you're doing your dirty work. And so an attorney isn't going to get messy, and they're not going to fight for you. So when the crap hits the fan, they're not going to be in the room. They earn their living in the courtroom. They don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers, and they will drop your case or have it lost because they won't fight the way you fight. So people need to take care of their own affairs and learn this stuff.
That's right. Yeah, and this is the kind of the next evolution. If you want to be free, as we all do out there, then we got to take personal responsibility for our life and our affairs. And so you don't have to do it alone. You know, we have champions like Tony and some other people here, part of Freedom Law Study Group, to teach you and guide you, because these guys actually care about you as a human and not as a money, like a revenue generation system from the city and the county and these various organizations that are parasites that just get on you and just sap your life force. And so what would you say, Tony, to people that are thinking about coming and maybe they're on the fence a little bit, whether because time commitment? There's one of my friends, he's busy, he's got to work on Saturday, but it's like, man, this is important. So, you know, to some of the people who already know, we're definitely going to be there. We got our tickets. But some of the people who are like, well, I got to do this, I got to do that. You know, what type of advice or insights would you give them to let them know the power of these notifications that you mentioned and some of the other tips? I'm sure there's going to be a question and answer session as well.
Yeah.
We can ask you specific questions, but someone who's on the fence and you put in, you know, 7-8 years of your life researching and applying this stuff, you know, I think it's a great opportunity to come learn from you and kind of compress my learning curve rather than taking me 12 months. Maybe it only takes me 6 months. And so we can accelerate that. And we really want to create like an army of lawful ninjas or Jedis or just other champions that are going to get out there, protect our mother-in-laws, our cousins, our friends, our family from being brutalized by these organizations. So any final words of advice to some of the people thinking about coming?
Yeah, this the first 2 hours is free. It's not a monetary obligation. And I think after you do the first 2 hours, you should probably try to plan on staying the whole day for $100 investment of our time, just covering our costs and whatnot. But yes, this stuff, you will carry this stuff the rest of your life. And if you learn the basics, you'll have those tools. Like I'm providing a workbook, you know, for the class, and you'll have the templates to where, you know, the building inspector can't run your life and your personal property. Cops can't search your cars because they're bored and they're looking for something to do. You will just not be pushed around and being screwed over anymore. Like I've had CPS back off on false allegations. I've had the IRS step away from people just from lawful notification letters. So these things are powerful, even on the simplest letters, about filing a federal lawsuit, because this is what happens when they violate your rights and you call them on the carpet. You're basically saying, you, sir, you, ma'am, not your organization, you are about to become a primary defendant in a federal lawsuit. You need to cease and desist. You're violating my rights. And if they violate your rights, you know, for a $400 filing fee and $50 service, you can file a $1 million lawsuit in the federal courts. It doesn't always do that way. But, you know, I think any of us are over 40, we're starting to realize, you know what, something's wrong here, man. I'm working my tail off. I'm in debt. You know, I'm getting fees and fines and taxed. And what happened to the land of the free, the home of the brave? It's the land of the feast and the home of the caged. I mean, I know people who went to jail that committed no crime. The definition of a crime is somebody who you've done injured to. You've injured somebody's person or property with criminal intent. And we're getting, you know, charged with these victimless crimes, which is ridiculous. It's taken away our freedoms. We need to understand this, and we need to create our communities safe havens for freedom, one community at a time. And so these lawful notifications do this. This COVID stuff is so overreached. You know, I have basically letters from the Department of Justice that forbid them to do this stuff. And so when we go into a federal venue, we're accusing these people of violating federal laws because these state courts have been railroading us. And that's why people think, well, what's the use? I went to court and lost. Yeah, you went to state court. You know what I call a lawyer with an IQ of 70? Your Honor, in a state court. I mean, you could be the cable guy and then get a community college degree and become a state court judge in some of these towns. You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And they have a California bench guide where it's like a McDonald's menu. It doesn't matter what you present as your evidence. They just go down the line, and the lawyers won't make waves and make these arguments, these constitutional arguments. So we need to assert what we know. So the impartation they're going to get for the first 2 hours is going to be amazing. They're going to stand up on the inside and go, wait a minute, I didn't know I had this kind of power. I didn't know these people were accountable to me and to my community. And so these are the tools, and you don't have to get a law degree to stand up for yourself. And this stuff will carry you for the rest of your life. I don't personally get screwed over ever, you know, and I've been victimized by, by government before, but never again. And it feels good. You know, it's when I run into people who try to bully me, I have like about a 30-second conversation, and they realize I'm just not squawking, and I'm saying, hey, excuse me, I know my rights. You know, I look down into their soul and say, hey, you know what? I don't want problems with you. I'm going to show you honor right now, but you need to back up. You know, how big is your house, sir? I want to make sure all my furniture fits in. I mean, that's what I told this cop who escorted me off the plane a week ago Tuesday. You know, I flew into San Francisco, and there was a mask discrepancy there for about 10 minutes. And they had me escorted off the plane, and the cop was yelling at me. I'm like, you know, how big is your house, officer? Why is that? Because I'm going to make sure all my furniture fits in. You're way overstepping your bounds here. This is ridiculous. And so if we haven't committed a crime, if there is no injured party, you should not be drug off the beach because of COVID restrictions. You should not be arrested for not wearing a mask. You should be able to travel down the road and when your taillight's out and not be stopped and molested by law enforcement. And so this is my 3 words to our government officials. Do your job. You swore an oath to protect the rights of me, the constitutional rights. You didn't swear an oath to handle the COVID restrictions from the governor. You didn't swear an oath to the Department of Motor Vehicles codes. You swore an oath to uphold my constitutional rights. So another question you might ask a law enforcement officer, sir, are you required to uphold my 4th and 5th Amendments, yes or no? Because if they say yes, say, well, then I'm free to go because there's no crime here. See you later. And if they say no, then say, well, you're guilty of felony perjury of your oath of office. I'll be charging you with a felony and suing you in a civil action in federal court, and smile.
Well, I can't wait to learn how to do that. I mean, you said that so quickly right there. So I'm going to have to watch this video again, and other people as well. So you want to get it. So it's just reaction. You know exactly your rights. You know exactly how to respond with these individuals who they're probably ignorant of the law, but they're about to find out real quick what they're doing because you are the kings. You are the ones who have these natural rights, and they're yours. They're a gift from universe or God or nature, but they are yours. And unless you consent, they belong to you. And so, my friends, as you can tell, Mr. Pellegrino is a powerhouse, and I appreciate your passion and knowledge, Tony, here sharing with us, and going to be coming out on November 7th here in Capitola, California. So if you can make it, come out. If you got to take the day off, come out. This is going to be very valuable information for yourself and for your kids, the people around you. We really got to understand where we are in this whole COVID scam. We're 8 or 9 months in, and we can see it's going to the vaccine, it's going to the travel, and we've seen that the leaked document out of Canada and other places where they're not going to back down. So it's high tide to get in the game, learn what we got to learn, these notifications and these other tactics we're going to learn, because if we don't learn them, guys, there's nobody coming. You know, if these are the law enforcers, these are our protectors, and they're the ones violating us. So it's really up to us men and women out there to stand up. I love how you said, stand up inside. This is psychological warfare, and when you get in the courtroom, it's like a boxing match. So you don't know what moves are going to play, but if we can stay out of the courtrooms, I think that's going to be a wise move. Learn to play the paper game and intimidate them, put them on notice, and then they'll season the sticks and say, okay, you're too hard of a target, so we're going to go somebody else. So we're so grateful for your knowledge and your intent to help us, Tony. And anyone watching, come out and visit us. Go to freedomlawstudygroup.com. Get your tickets. We're about 10 days away at the recording of this interview, and it's going to be a great time. And we'll probably do the following seminars as well, but it's going to be like a series. So you want to get this first step in the education of understanding the law, how to apply it, and then just start putting together one notification at a time, one document at a time, and that way you become equipped and empowered, just like Tony is. So thanks for
Yeah, and
joining
it
us.
won't be it'll be entertaining too. I got a lot of fun stories too. It's not going to be dry. There's a lot of I rarely had people just walk out going, this is too far over my head or this is boring. So it will be entertaining, and at the end of it, you will stand up on the inside. I call it being born again as a citizen. You know, the experience of having an awakening of the power that resides within you as one of We the People. It's a great experience. So people will be receiving that impartation. Like the light's going to go on, and then the lion's going to come alive.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what the whole thing is. And there's power in community. So that's the other aspect of it. Because we built this little group, now we can help each other. You know, if Tony's speaking too fast, you know, say, what did you say? How does that work? Let's share notes together. And we're going to keep doing this, whether it was with Tony or other great speakers out there. There's a mass awakening happening to your natural freedoms. And we are the ones we've been waiting for, my friends. So let's help each other. Let's support this event. Come out and learn, invest in your mind, invest in your freedom, and come hang out with other freedom people. It's going to be a great time. So get your tickets, and thanks for joining us on the Freedom Lovers Show, where we're building a voluntary world, one relationship at a time. We'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you, David. I appreciate everything that you do. So I'm going to start following you on Facebook too, and whatever venues you're on YouTube. I appreciate your passion for freedom. It's great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So it's the fire. It's the fire in the minds of men out there. So you got it too, me too, and our community does too. It's spreading like a candle. When you share a candle with somebody, all of a sudden everybody's a candle in a dark room, and now the room is full of light. And so that's what I believe we are in this community, and looking forward to seeing you all very soon. See you soon, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
man. Bye.